Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this insightful and engaging session on reimagining customer experience, organized jointly by Tata Communications and ETCIO. For organizations to meet the high expectations of today's customer, they need to transform their digital experiences into a brand in itself. The pandemic and subsequent rise of distributed working patterns significantly accelerated the digitalization of enterprises across the globe and of society as a whole. And it's now completely commonplace for the average business to leverage an array of cloud applications or to conduct operations through collaboration platforms. As a result, there's already an expectation that every business will have an online presence and will strive to provide a seamless digital experience. But to make a real impact on modern customers, businesses need to be able to go further than simply providing a run-of-the-mill digital experience. They need to be able to solve their customers' problems in dynamic, sustainable, and highly personalized ways. To solve the jigsaw puzzle, enterprises, their vendors, and ecosystems at large need to be all geared up towards creating the types of digital experiences that solve real-world problems. Today's session has been conceptualized keeping this in mind. The session is divided into two parts: a fireside chat with a couple of leading enterprise technology experts on the topic Big Transformation, Customer Experience, Leading Digital Transformation for Tata Enterprises, which will be followed by a panel discussion themed Reimagining Retail Customer Experience in the Digital First World. The panel will comprise eminent IT leaders from top enterprises. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any more ado, let's kickstart this session with a fireside chat. Hello, viewers. Thanks for joining this very topical fireside chat on the big transformation, customer experience, leading digital transformation for Tata Enterprises. COVID-19 has brought extended lockdowns, pervasive uncertainty, and sustained attention on health. All of these factors are reshaping customer behavior. As this pandemic doesn't seem to end and keeps hitting us waves after waves, we must look at the changing consumer behavior and the impact this pandemic has had on the way brands meet and manage customers' expectations. However, the challenge for companies is to understand which customer trends and patterns will endure over the longer term. In this session, we have with us two very senior business and technology leaders who will decipher customer trends and patterns and how they can be leveraged for sustained business growth. So without any more delay, please join me in welcoming our speakers, Mr. Dharmarajan K, Chief Business Officer, Beauty at Tata Click, and Mr. Arijit Banerjee, Senior Vice President and Head India Region for Tata Communications. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Yash.
Thanks, Yash. Great to be here.
Wonderful to same here. So wonderful to have both of you here. Let me set the ball rolling with Mr. Dharmarajan. Mr. Dharmarajan, global e-commerce has steadily risen over the past 5 years. Declining profitability and evolving customer preferences brought about the urgent need to transform business models and reimagine customer experiences. What do you feel are the foundational technologies that will enable digital acceleration going forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. And some of these are very short-term in nature. For example, some of the things that you mentioned in terms of e-commerce, profitability, and the resulting impact of that. When you view it, sort of zoom out a little bit, you will realize predominantly it is about shaking the inertia of how businesses were run in a certain period of time. And some of these profitability, etc., will be back in play. You would find that this is probably the most optimum way of retailing in business, which is a mix of online plus offline, etc. The way the e-commerce today is evolving from very, very basic, for example, how Amazon has built, you build as a category player. You bring in the categories, get anything and everything available as a selection for you as a consumer, and provide them with the right pricing, which is the lowest possible price, and provide them with the convenience of same day delivery, next day delivery, and multiple shipping option. so that it is customer at the center. You provide wide selection with the assumption that any customer at any point in time, if provided that wide selection, can go and select the right product for themselves. And that's how the whole model evolved, from books to other categories, which are very conducive to online purchase, where the quality was not a big constraint, touch and feel was not a big play there, etc. From there, how it is moving now is, how do I sort of take the cognitive load out of consumer and show them what is best suited for them. And this becomes like a very large challenge, and this can sort of manifest itself into different play. People talk about personalization, customization, etc. There are different smaller cuts. Just to start with, it's a very, very simple cut. It's about brand preference itself. For example, you might be buying, say, a white shirt that you're wearing. You have a certain preference. If you were to select the same product in a platform of the past, you would just type white shirt. You were very indifferent to what white shirt. And then it evolved to, I wanted this brand. I want Louis Philippe white shirt. And then you go into Louis Philippe with certain GSM, sensibly or responsibly sourced, clean supply chain use, and so on and so forth. And that is how the evolution is happening. And this whole evolution of consumers' understanding of what their need is, and the capability of technology to provide, taking in various input from customer, and serving them the right products, right amount of products at right point in time, is how it is changing. That is on how we believe the world is moving towards, from completely category-based approach, moving to brand, and from brand moving to story-based, highly personalized, highly customized, you as an individual trying to sell the product. This on personalization. Second layer is also it is becoming more, I'm talking more mostly from the Indian context. Starting with text-based approach, it will now sort of, you will see that text with a single language, English as a preference. We'll now start seeing vernacular coming in as a mainstream way of buying. Then moving towards social buying behavior, which means video, influencer-led, so live commerce, social commerce is another direction in which it is going. And as we sort of start penetrating into next 100 million and the next 100 million after that, we will also start seeing a lot of voice-based commerce and image-based commerce. These are at a very high level, directionally where the world is moving towards on the commerce side.
Wonderful, Mr. Dharmarajan. Thanks for explaining this really beautifully. So, coming to you, Mr. Arijit, like Mr. Dharmarajan just said, he gave us a snapshot of how the landscape is evolving. Do you agree with him? And, in your interactions with customers, how do you see them evolving in the last 2 years? And what are the factors driving this change?
Thanks, Yash. Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to everyone watching the session. Now, in the last couple of years, two things have happened, right? We all know. One is the great convergence, which was happening where different technologies were coming together and leading to disruption of almost every business and business model we could really think of. The second is, of course, the pandemic, which I would personally believe has accelerated the need for this change by at least 10 to 15 years. And what we see really is there are three areas which customers are really wanting to relook at with urgency, keeping in mind the way their customers have started evolving. Right. One, Mr. Dharmarajan mentioned, is obviously redefined customer experience. That is getting driven by absolute dramatic shifts in consumer priorities and behavior across industries. The last best experience is becoming the lowest common denominator in terms of expectations. And of course, hyper-personalization and extreme convenience are slowly becoming table stakes. They're no longer competitive differentiation. They're almost table stakes now. Second, I think, is workforce transformation. That's the other area which companies are evolving. That was, again, driven mainly by the pandemic, because in the post-pandemic world, interactions between people in both the physical workplace as well as via digital collaboration platforms will need to get adjusted to fit a more agile working model, if I may put it that way. It is not going to be an either or question. Both will have to coexist. Last but not the least is the need for radical cost management. As organizations of today most often have very inflexible and high cost structures, driven by legacy systems and high cost manual processes. So going ahead, the operating models will completely need to get relooked at to move towards a more variable cost structure that can respond to the changing market needs. So if I have to put it simply, there was a shift in how differently enterprises today have started interacting both within the company, that is employee collaboration, as well as with their customers and their approach to technology. It's really been a shift from a position of why should I do it to a position of how fast can I do it, right? Questions like, will my employees embrace the technology, or will people be able to collaborate this way, or will I be able to engage with my customers through a digital channel? Uh, People needed to answer that in 40 to 72 hours when the pandemic struck, and they had to just get on with it. For example, with the pandemic, majority of employees started working from home. Every single meeting was suddenly being delivered over the cloud on some sort of collaboration technology, and legacy technologies of communication were absolutely not adequate anymore. Similarly, the contact centers, which were often viewed as a support function or cost centers earlier, today have become the backbone of customer interactions. Because now your customers will expect the same in-store experience sitting at home. So the way contact centers are visualized or integrated today in the customer journey will need to completely change. So in summary, if I have to really look at it, the shift has been that the digital channel is not one of many now. It is the primary engagement model and a very critical part of the company's brand. It is the way their customers will increasingly interact going ahead, and that spans across the customer life cycle, be it awareness or consideration or purchasing, delivery, or finally support.
Okay, wonderful, Arijit. Great. Let me come back to Mr. Dharmarajan again. E-tailers have realized the importance of building more robustness into their operations while making it agile. I mean, pandemic really pushed them into this. How are you leveraging technology at various stages of your operations, from seamless navigational experience on the platform to product purchase to inventory management and quality checking, and basically managing end-to-end supply chain? I know, I mean, it's a very short time to ask such a detailed question, but it would be great to have some
Yeah.
insights from you.
So as you mentioned, you sort of covered the entire customer journey. For us in Tata Click, that is divided into 8 different product funnels. Each product funnel headed by a director of product with a team of about 8 to 10 product managers. It is how deep each part of that customer journey is, and for each part of that journey, there is a very detailed thought process. For example, the first part, which is about pre-platform consumer journey. Pre-platform means a customer who is out there in the digital world or in the physical world. What technology that you use to get them to the platform, which is how do you reach out to these customers on Facebook, on Google, on Insta, on YouTube, and so on and so forth, and all these channels. And how do you optimize for it? How do you ensure that you use the right technology, right information, create right audience set and cohorts, and reach out to these customers in a very short time frame, share what value that we bring to their life, and a reason for them to download our app or come to our website to do a transaction, which is, and there is, it's a very detailed science, from SEO to SEM to ASO. Each part has different role to play here. It's a fairly advanced today. About, sort of, if you go back about 2.5 years, most of this is used to be done in a manual fashion. All the e-commerce players were sharing manual generated feed files to these large player about their products, catalog, inventory. Now it is all automated, algorithmic, real-time, detailed integration with ability to define what audience, what cohort, what cost I want to sort of spend to be able to acquire these customers. It's a fairly advanced science now, and it is completely programmatic from being highly manual about 2.5 years ago. Next part of the journey is when the customer lands onto the platform, and till the time she adds a product to the cart, browsing through different pages, whether it is home page or navigation pages, etc. Here, again, there is a lot of changes that have happened. What you see as your sort of landing page on any of the major e-com players is very unique to you, and it varies from person to person. It is highly personalized. It is started with geo personalization, understanding which location you're coming from. Today it takes into input like what is your preferred brand, what is your preferred size. So automatically deselecting all the other sizes. When you search for any product, the relevance of your brand and your size is given the highest weightage. All of this determines in terms of the quality of output and the engagement that you have with platform. When you get to see what we know that you are here for, is how the journeys are then decided. Once a product gets added to the cart, and then you sort of continue with the checkout process. And again, there is a absolute revelation that has happened in the last 2 years on the payment side, all on the fintech. The number of instruments that got added, starting with UPI. UPI from nearly 0% contribution on our platform. This I'm talking about sort of end of 2019 to today with 35% plus. It's a massive change, and the way the country buys today has changed because of some of these instruments coming into the play. And then to add to it, there are other seamless loan options like buy now pay later capabilities, DC EMI, debit card EMI, and EMI with a very different structuring, etc. Also has made it very convenient for customers to transact, buy really high value product, pre-approved consumer sort of credit norms, etc. are all available, which has further improved the buying journey. Essentially improving different parts of the customer journey. It's made it very easy. Applying for loan has become easier. Buying large products at EMI has become easier, etc. Then coming to the post-ordering bit, which is on the supply chain side, order management part. I would talk more about how we have done here in Click, which is highly differentiated from some of the other e-commerce players. We are a very strong omni-channel player where we are connecting 6,000 plus stores across the country, and we ship the products from the nearest store to the customer and whatever brand product that she has bought from. And here we use various logic for determining which is the best shop to sort of allocate a particular order to, taking into account the time taken for delivery, cost of delivery, previous fulfillment rates, ability to ensure that the product is packed in a manner which is best suited for consumer rating and preferences. All of this is considered. And also we have various logic that is defined as hop logic. It's an algo that we are even sort of filing for an IP. So it is that advanced. Our ability to sort of pinpoint which is the best source and destination combination for customer to be chosen so that the experience is maximized is how the advancement has happened. And this takes into account inventory available at store location, seller location, and the past performance of every single logistic partner who has sourced, shipped that product from this particular store to a particular customer, and so on and so forth. And then comes the consumer facing part of customer service and customer service units. And here, from the old world of customer service being a highly reactive center, wherein if somebody has any query or a problem and they reach out to this set of people to get their problem solved, it is moved from being highly reactive to predictive to today it is highly prescriptive. And there is a lot of technology advancement that has happened. Our ability to forecast which set of customers would have the highest probability of reaching out to us depending on what product, what city, what zone, what price point, etc. we have. And we have designed our communication, our self-serve channel, automated bots to cater to those needs. Essentially, what we do is we measure it by a metric called as contact per transaction, which is trying to eliminate the customer's need to reach out to us to know something. So that's the another big change that is happening. People would want to do everything by themselves and not want to reach out to somebody and speak to a contact center agent. So then this is in essence is all on the consumer journey side, which is advanced in the last 2.5 years.
Great, Mr. Dharmarajan. You are leveraging technology in a very holistic and in a wonderful manner and very innovatively at that too. Great. Coming back to Mr. Arijit, how do you see technology playing a crucial role in enterprises like Tata Click, enabling their customer transformation? And also, when you implement a new technology, how do you define the success of this? I mean, how do you ensure that it visibly you are delivering customer experience to end customers?
I think Mr. Dharmarajan said it all in terms of how they are really using technology to carve a differentiated approach to customers. But it's needless to say that technology will play a pivotal role for our customers who are trying to enable or transform their own employee or consumer experience through the usage of various technology platforms. I think the key would be to create a digital-first enterprise, where the objective will be to build an end-to-end secure and connected enterprise infused with intelligent workflows that enable growth, brings in efficiencies or fosters innovation, and across the ecosystem the company really operates in, thus ensuring all the customer journeys are more intelligent, seamless, and contactless to the best extent possible. And we heard some of those stories, what Tata Click is bringing to life. And today, I think what is also important is that companies start looking at serving their customers beyond their core need, because there are a lot of unsaid needs which can be fulfilled as a part of the same customer journey. So I think that's the other important area companies need to keep track of. Though I must say that technology should not be the starting point, right? But rather, we must really look at what is the customer or employee experience that we are trying to really drive, and what are the tangible results that we are trying to get, and how can technology be an enabler for that. And typically, I think most of the organizations are starting outside in today, as close to the customer as possible or the employee experience which they want to get. And the selection of technology is then done accordingly. So technology is never the driving point. It always starts with the customer or keeping the employee in mind. The other important thing which is really playing out is the aspect of technology and the speed at which we would want to bring those experiences to our customers. We found that a very agile approach tends to be the best in this case in the current times, because in the past, we used to do very long projects with lots of detailed scoping upfront, lots of very well designed and thought out planned implementation schedules, etc. And not to say the design principles and the planning doesn't need to be done now, but the speed at which we need to really do that, and the ability to get the required customer experience to the market very quickly has just accelerated dramatically, which is great news. With the advent of cloud, we have the ability to experiment, to test, to fail or succeed fast. And also our ability to predict what customers or employees we really want a year from now is very limited. So delivery in agile sprints becomes very, very important, where we have to adopt to a process of continuous improvement. And when we really look at the associated business outcomes today, like you mentioned, what our customers would really like to have that are most relevant to them. And if you really think of it, business outcomes tend to be very different from the traditional metrics we used to measure any technology implementation. Be it earlier, it used to be service levels, delivery timelines, etc. Those are still there, but I think where the world is moving to is more of business outcomes at the end of the day. A few examples could be, what is the percentage of improvement of self-service in a customer journey without compromising the experience, right? Improvement in the number of touches or interactions that you may have to do with a customer to achieve a particular outcome, improvement in the net promoter score, or improvement in employee productivity, etc. So the conversations are really shifting from purely technology implementation to the enhanced business outcomes. It is able to really deliver in terms of experience or productivity or even lowering costs for them.
Sure. So, Mr. Dharmarajan, you talked about how Tata Click has a very robust and very sound omni-channel presence. But developing a seamless omni-channel experience for customers is not strictly to drive sales and revenue, but rather to build and maintain customer loyalty, creating lifetime customers. How can retail leaders enhance digital experiences in the omni-channel world? Your thoughts here.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think too many players have truly done omni-channel. Most of them have implemented a multi-channel way of approach. You have online model and you have an offline model, which has very, very basic connect and not deeply integrated. And we believe in future it is going to be highly, highly integrated. And also for some of the categories, the way we see it is omni-channel is beyond our offline stores. If as I am a retail player, my offline and my online is just a part in that whole omni-channel buying behavior, because consumers today, for example, beauty as a category, they research about the product on Insta. They follow influencers on YouTube, and they get consulting in so many different places. and then they go to some trial apps or trial location. Then they visit an offline store, see how that product is used, and come online to buy a product. You as a single retailer, single brand retailer, or a multi-brand retailer, your ability to connect every single channel the customer interacts before and after making a purchase or a purchase decision become extremely critical. So the definition of omni-channel itself will become all-encompassing, and it will become much, much larger than how we define it today. And it will be the holy grail. It will be what most of us in the retail space, e-commerce, offline retailers, or whichever way you want to define it, they will all be chasing towards, and that's where the customers are. Consumer don't sort of decide that I will make an online purchase or an offline purchase. They decide to buy a product, and they have a method of finding about that product. If some requires very low level of involvement, they just find the easiest way of buying that product. If some product requires a higher level of involvement, they need to know a little bit more. They research whichever is the most convenient method, convenient way of finding that information out, and then she will buy that product. So you as a retail player will try and integrate all these channels. Some of the things that we are trying to do, we have offline aspiration. Very soon you will see some of our stores where you try and integrate very seamlessly. If a customer is an online customer, existing sort of behavior, you know that she is browsing these products. These are the products available in the cart. How do you sort of pass on that information when she walks into an offline store and start the conversation from there? And your ability to know who that customer is in, how long she's been a customer of yours, etc., is what is going to differentiate the omni-channel experience. Also, you will start seeing a lot of technology play. Today, we don't do that enough. Retail stores are limited by their stock ability, how much of SKUs that they can display. All of this, we believe, will go away. You will be able to see whatever that you would want to buy. If that product is not available in store, by the time you reach home, that product will be there at home. So and those kind of things will be definitely in play. There will be a lot of AR related technology which will come in, even in the online and more so in the offline world. How the product looks on her, and seamless checkout, which means you will try and take in all the kinds of friction that exist in today's retail shopping, especially during the end of season sale. So it is just around the corner. We are all preparing for it, being an e-commerce player, and we know that what happens to some of these large fashion retailers. It's a very, very tough job standing in a queue for for nothing less than half an hour, because you know that the products are great, you will buy it, that this is the best time to get it, but some of those experiences are still not solved for. So there also there will be a lot of technology, your ability to self checkout using some bit on barcode plus computer vision technology, etc. Those are the changes that will happen, and a lot of us are preparing for it.
Sure, great. Mr. Arijit, Tata Communications provides technologies like omni-channel customer experience platforms and cloud contact centers. And all this is to enhance customer engagement and improve employee collaboration. Tell us a little bit how you help enterprises and enhance lifetime customer value at the same time, greatly reducing cost of acquisition. How do you enable all of these?
I think one of the things that today's available technology does is allow us to really personalize experience at scale. Right? And I completely agree that not many companies have really implemented an omnichannel model yet. And I think what is going to come ahead is not only an omnichannel model, but an incremental omnichannel model, the way I put it, that when you are moving from one channel to the other, your interaction of the next channel, by the time your next agent should already know much more about you, so that every interaction is an incremental interaction. It is not just about starting from where you left. I think that is anyway going to happen with a lot of organizations, but it's about taking the next interaction and making it much more personalized. And of course, the application of artificial intelligence or machine learning or automation, we are able to enable our customers at the moment of truth. That is when they are actually engaged with their customers to either prospect or sell or service. We are also able to empower enterprises in every engagement with their customers by providing insights of what the actual objective of the customer is. And this is again done by taking in analyzing a lot of data, which can come from social media and more importantly from past interaction with customers, right? Because that's a huge pool of data which organizations usually have. So our focus is to really enable enterprises with high quality and hyper personalized customer conversations. And while doing that, we do get a lot of opportunity to enhance the lifetime value of our customer and to delight them at the various points along the journey. The better you can get at harnessing the personalized information, bringing it to bear at the right moment, it's all about timing, providing the right context for the transaction. I think the better will be the experience in the digital world. And a lot of that actually will help customers to also save cost. As consumers ourselves, just for example, how many of us really want to go through pushing, punching IVR buttons to try and get to the right agent at top, right? If we can really complete the customer journey on our own, that's the best for everybody because it's most rapid and it's the best outcome for not only the customer as well as the best outcome for the company, because in terms of time and the resources spent, the company tends to save a lot. A lot of time, the objective of reducing costs and improving customer experience actually is coinciding in the digital world, which is again very good news. At the same time, there are instances when we want to actually talk to an agent, right? And the system should have the right cognitive capabilities to understand that and then do the needful. I will quickly take two examples. We are using speech analytics to listen to conversations and then provide prompts and relevant insights to contact center agents. That really helps them to conduct real-time contextual and personalized interactions, including identifying potential opportunities that may exist for upselling or enhancing the level of service, right? Second example is to also make, we are working with people where we are helping them make fashion consultant or an electronics expert available through an immersive video consultation experience for the various e-commerce companies to enhance their chances of conversions of a lead, right? And today's digital technologies also help us mimic the best person for each type of transaction and extrapolate their knowledge and make it available to every customer, thus making sure that the cost to serve reduces while you are able to provide enhanced personal experiences at scale.
Okay, great, sure. So we are coming fast to the end of this session. So my final question for Mr. Dharamrajan, for e-commerce companies to navigate any unforeseen circumstances, they would have to focus on three core areas: ensure quick adaptability, build applications that can adjust to the changing needs, and an IT infrastructure that is scalable and reliable. What's your recommendation for business technology leaders on building these three areas?
Yeah, so there are like 2-3 things that I think it is absolutely must. First is A/B testing as a framework. We as a platform are like 100% sold and do anything and everything with some amount of testing. Certain features require a larger level of testing and some lower, but it's a philosophy and culture, which means you at some point in time when you're leading the curve, you would have hypothesis. Even though you might have done a lot of customer study, research, etc., ability to know exactly how something is going to pan out is not going to be that great, which essentially means you need to have a very strong framework of testing something out, read data, and based on which you quickly adapt and decide what is the best solution to take it out for customer. Second big change, which most of the organizations are already doing, is about moving from build to last, to build to adapt, which even Arijit sort of touched upon on the agile way of functioning, everything moving from on-prem to cloud-based infrastructure, monolith architecture to microservices moving towards self-curing, self-deciding in terms of what is the next best action. That is the model in which most of us are anyway moving towards. We are keeping it open. We know what works best for today. And there is a prediction that we can do, which people used to earlier do for 3 to 5 years. Our best case is about 12 to 18 months because that is the pace at which the world is changing. Being ready, always keep your ears to the ground. Be as close as possible to the customers. Your competition is not your industry. Your competition is anybody and everybody out there. And we take a lot of inspiration and aspiration from various organizations. So we are we're building this new app. Most of it is inspired by Spotify and Instagram, and you're building an e-commerce platform. And that's where our learnings are. There is so much to learn in this space, and the pace at which the industry and the technology is moving. Be as agile as possible, create your structure, move from larger team models to a smaller pod structure, where your ability to influence is very, very fast. From decision to seeing that feature on the platform. If you can bring it down to 1 week, we mean and that is probably is a state that we all want to be in.
Great. Wonderful. All the best to you, Mr. Dharmarajan. Finally, Mr. Arijit, we hear a lot these days about hyper-connected digital ecosystems. As an ecosystem enabler, how are you helping your customers with hyper-connectivity across the board?
I think for the pace of digital transformation to be sustainable, organizations really need to look at having integrated conversations of their entire business and technology architecture. It is all going to be about being digitally smart, like I mentioned earlier, by treating your application, your data, your infrastructure, your connectivity, your collaboration platforms, and your security landscapes as a cohesive, integrated whole, and not as individual disjointed parts. Because what was happening is organizations were taking a lot of digital initiatives which created these islands of technology within them, which was not really helping them integrate the entire power of the organization in front of the customer. So a hyper-connected ecosystem in essence means connecting people, data, and assets anytime and anywhere. And most organizations were already compelled to undertake this journey to become truly digital post-pandemic scenario. I think will only make it absolutely necessary for survival, this entire ensuring that their entire ecosystem is completely connected. There are three pillars, obviously: people, process, and technology we completely look at. And we work with organizations to fundamentally enable a managed digital estate across their next generation networks, including software-defined WANs, offer collaboration platforms for customers to build upon, manage their hybrid multi-cloud architecture, which is so very important, from the data center. And now data is not only limited to the data center, a lot of data is moving to the edge. So completely managing the cloud architecture from the data center to the edge. And most importantly, all this underpinned by a very, very strong layer of security that cuts across the enterprise architecture.
Sure. Wonderful. That was a great discussion, gentlemen. With this, we've come to the end of this wonderful session. To conclude, customer experience has taken on a new definition and dimension in the overwhelming challenge of COVID-19. Customer leaders who care and innovate during this crisis and anticipate how customers will change their habits will build stronger relationships that will endure well beyond the crisis passing. I would once again like to thank both our speakers, Mr. Dharmarajan and Mr. Arijit, for your wonderful inputs, and all our viewers for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Yash. My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, after this thought-provoking fireside chat, we now have the panel discussion coming up. So do stay with us as our panelists take you through the journey of reimagining retail customer experience. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this topical panel discussion on reimagining retail customer experience in the digital-first world, organized jointly by Tata Communications and ETCIO. With the rapid adoption of digital technologies, customer demands have become more customized and evolved from expecting broad-range product categories to expecting businesses to satisfy specific brand and personal choices. Today, customers expect enhanced, fast, and touch-free shopping experiences in stores and personalized store-like experiences online. As a result, there is a need for the brands to deliver their customers a secure, seamless, and omnichannel experience. In this exclusive virtual roundtable, we have with us leading enterprise technology experts from the retail sector, and they will throw light on the strategies and solutions through which global brands can deliver their customers meaningful and seamless omnichannel experiences while leveraging the latest technologies. So without any more ado, please join me in welcoming our panelists of the day in alphabetical order: Mr. Deepak Bhosle, General Manager IT, Asian Paints, Mr. Rajgopal Nayak, CTO, Metro Brands, Mr. Sriram Sampath, VP and Head, UCC Product and Engineering, Tata Communications, Mr. Sukanta Kumar Nayak, VP Group IT, Aditya Birla Group, and Mr. Vishal Kapil, CTO of a leading retail chain. Welcome, gentlemen. I will open up the discussion with Deepak. Deepak, while customer was always the king, this area of customer experience has become even more important in the last couple of years because of the pandemic. Now, what key trends are you seeing with respect to customer experience? And how can CIOs and other enterprise technology leaders within the retail sector align with these trends? Your thoughts?
Sure. Thank you, Yash. And it is a pleasure to be in the august company of such eminent speakers. Coming to your question, yes, as technologists, as CXOs, we need to follow consumer trends, and it's an integral part of the CIO role. In terms of the way I see consumer trends, clearly one a big trend which emerges very strongly. It was always there in terms of omni-channel experiences. Previously, it used to be multi-channel, and people were very happy delivering an awesome experience on a single channel. But now you really need to have it stitched across all the channels which the consumer feels comfortable interacting with you. And you would see newer channels coming in. The amount of business which is happening on WhatsApp or Insta, Pinterest is at a different level. So that's, and especially in the pandemic, the amount of video interactions which are happening, which have led to sales, it's of a different order. The second trend which I've been personally tracking is one wherein business models, consumers are forcing newer business models to come up. Like the subscription model is becoming extremely valid and prevalent. You see, today, if you see a lot of services, products are getting supplemented with services and the subscription model. There is this intention of retaining your customers for life. There's an intention of understanding the changing requirements of the customer and keep adding value. The third trend, which has been there before and again comes up very strongly, largely because the way digital is shaping up, is personalization at scale. Because every consumer wants to be treated differently. Every consumer wants to feel special, and hence are your processes, are your systems being geared to deliver personalization at scale? I think if you're able to do that, I think you've been really making a good headway in the space of consumer experiences. The fourth one which I see is every interaction is now tending towards real time, right? Consumers want everything instant. The instant gratification is so high, or this instant thing about a 5-minute delivery or a 2-minute. Within 2 minutes, within a few seconds, you need an alert or a notification. I think the consumer really wants to get it all in a real time basis. It might, as a service, it's still okay to have it over longer, but he expects it to be real time. And largely, I think people are getting tuned to it be real time, and that really poses a different set of challenges, more from a CIO point of view, in terms of how do you actually engineer systems which typically would cater to this trend. And obviously, the consumers are changing big time. People have moved from a completely physical experience to a touchless experience, and now it's a world where both it's going to be a digital experience, wherein for consumer experiences, companies are like us, delivering that consistent, seamless experience across the physical and the digital channels is something which the consumer is going to appreciate. I really love brands like Disney, which have been able to do it so well. You get inspired on the website, you then plan a trip to Disney. You actually can start tracking it on your mobile. You can then move to use great passes on through the mobile, to the extent you can use your mobile as a room key. So that's an amazing experience which they would have stitched both in the physical and digital world. I think that's increasingly going to be, while it has been a differentiator for a long time, I see that getting hygiene as we go along. So these are a few trends which I thought are important, more from a consumer experience point of view. And I guess CIOs need to really look at this very closely if they would want to be in a space where they really deliver engaging and wow experiences.
Definitely. Wonderful inputs there, Deepak. You've really touched upon some really key trends that are emerging. Omni-channel for one, instant gratification for another, And then talking about the personalization, definitely consumers today want hyper personalized experiences more than ever. And I was going through an Accenture study which said 75% of consumers are more likely to purchase from a company that knows their name, their purchase history, and recommends items based on their purchase history. So definitely, these are definitely some of the trends that CIOs need to look at going forward. Let me come to Vishal now. Vishal, do you echo Deepak's sentiments there? The trends, are you also seeing the similar trends in the market?
See, trends are determined by two forces. One, leading market proposition. So anyone who is coming out with a leading market proposition, like we see in grocery today, 10 minutes delivery or 15 minutes delivery. So nobody was expecting that kind of an experience, but now you have it. Okay. So there are people who try to disrupt the known equations. So hence the expectations get built. So there are companies, there are people who are trying to push boundaries on many aspects, whether it's product delivery and hence it poses a challenge in terms of how do you cater to that kind of an expectations. So that's one element of how the customer experience expectations get changed. The second one is there is a kind of an experience brands and products are giving to customers, and customers are tuned to that this brand, this is what I expect from the product, this is what I expect from the service, this is what I expect from the overall experience. Okay. And then if you try to change that, disrupt that, a lot of people, your regular customers, because there is a saying that retention is better than acquisition, because so heavy buyers, they tend to buy more.
And so, more cost effective as well.
Absolutely. So how do you retain the core of your right experience? So you can't be, so these are the two dimensions I see what is basically driving and setting the expectations in the mind of customer in terms of experience. The third element, which is very important for customer, end of the day, see, if you are a product oriented company and having retail and digital proposition, then it's all about your product and how you get your product delivered or your service delivered to your ecosystem. Okay. Because in your entire ecosystem, if your partner ecosystem is not geared up to what you are trying to do, then you are adding more frictions. Okay, that gives a challenge. So in my view, these are the two important things which are there. And if you do not do product discovery in your stores very well, and if you do not do product discovery very well on your online platforms, and you have multiple frictions, that's not something which people are going to love. People want more choices. Like we say in social media, what is the thumb stopping moment? You are just scrolling. In the content strategy, people say, what is your thumb stopping moment? So that's where because your attention span is very limited. So one is product companies, what is the range they are providing, and what is your thumb stopping moment? Or if you are standing in front of your product aisle, which is that product which is going to stand out? So you need to be very clear, online and offline. How do you do visual merchandise in the physical store, and online, how do you create that kind of a algos which basically links up to personalization that Deepak mentioned, and also weave the newness in the product and multiple other variants what you want to show. So there I can go on and on, but end of the day, the biggest trend is people are looking for frictionless way of working or interaction with you. That's the larger theme. Second thing, what you also mentioned, Yash, is customer is expecting that a brand or a product company should know about whom they are dealing with. Okay, so if you're a heavy shopper, then they are expecting, a customer is expecting that, as anyone, whether it's an offline store person or an online, we should know who you are, and then meet your expectations in terms of product delivery, service delivery, returns equation, how do you handle the loyalty equation, everything.
Sure, Vishal. Wonderful. Thank you so much for those wonderful inputs. I'll come to Rajgopal now. So Raj, we've talked about some trends, but one trend that comes to my mind is that of data, because while collecting customer data is one issue, the protection of data is a whole other world altogether. A data breach can ruin the digital customer experience and erode trust in the business. I think this could also be a big trend going forward when it comes to data protection. What other trends come to your mind when we talk about customer experience?
So, of course, data protection is a key aspect or a hygiene in this day and age. Now, firstly, a good day to the audience and fellow panel members. Thank you for inviting me and as a part of the panel. From a customer point of view, right, with the pandemic, there were two trends that clearly came in. One was the increased work from home, okay, and living in a time of uncertainties. This led to people preferring service-based consumption rather than owning the asset, right? So from an experience point of view, they want to try before they buy. Yeah, this led to a virtual try before buy as a significant customer experience expectation, right? Which very soon will end up in a super cycle of in the form of a metaverse, where we will actually might not be buying things physically. Okay, today we try virtually and buy physically, but tomorrow you might end up just buying digital assets and living in a world of virtual reality to begin with, something like straight from an episode of Dark Mirror series on Matrix, right? Or on Netflix rather. Now, social commerce and contactless experience are something that are key customer experience for any product or service that is in any shape and form. The other important thing you see from a customer experience point of view is that they want to be associated with what is called as conscious consumption or solidarity spending. Yeah, wherein a brand stands for certain focus areas or certain messages, like maybe eco-friendly products, recycled products made from recycled items, or for that matter, if a brand is a part of the spend that a consumer does with the brand, the consumer also knows that the brand is going to invest this in, let's say, education of girl child, something that is typically seen, for example, Nihar Shanti Amla. Whenever you buy a bottle of Nihar Shanti Amla, a quantum of it goes to Nihar Pathshala, which is a CSR initiative that is run by the company that manufactures that, right? Of course, and finally, as customers, we want everything at our fingertips, where I want it and when I want it. Okay, as a customer, customers do not want to have to depend on a human and an asynchronous mode of information sharing in both the pre-purchase, the purchase, and post-purchase experience cycle. And that is a key trend, if addressed well, will stand in good stead for a company. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure, Raj. Great. Coming to Sriram now. Sriram, with digitalization and technology advancements, customer experience is definitely under the spotlight in enterprises. What do you feel are the key imperatives driving the need to reimagine customer experience as we go forward?
A great question, Yashin, and happy to be part of this discussion. And thanks for this opportunity. I think the behavior of our consumers have changed to an extent, I would say, permanently, especially in the last couple of years, where everybody started going online, using applications, whether they would use a mobile app or go to the website. There's a study I read recently that in a 12-month window of a lot of major brands, 73% of their customers have started purchasing online. Now, on one hand, it could mean that a lot of customers are going online to purchase something, but on the other hand, when the same consumers walk into a brick and mortar store, they expect a lot more in terms of their time being spent there, in terms of personalization. I think Deepak talked about it, Vishal talked about it, Raj talked about it. It's eminent, right? So in the sense, if I walk into a store, I expect a lot of personalization because I'm spending my time there instead of spending the time online. So that's one. The second thing is, I don't want the experience to be very different between my purchases or my inquiries, whether that happens in store or online. So the experience that I expect from brands, from enterprises, I expect that to be very similar. And if I see then, if I look at my online versus offline, in a brick and mortar store experience, I want my experience to be efficient. I want my time to be well spent. I don't want time to be spending in queues or trying to wait for a product. So how can the personalization help there, right? That's one thing that brands can look at. Also, when I look at going online, a lot of enterprises, brands have to start thinking, even if a customer walks into my store, there's a lot of homework that the customer does online by reviewing the brand, by reviewing the product. The actual purchase cycle happens at least a few days or weeks, even perhaps, before the actual purchase happens in the store. So enterprises, I believe, have to start thinking at the customer experience. At any point in time, will have a touch point on the online part of the journey, right? Not necessarily if I walk into a store, there's no online part of it at all. So whether to read reviews or write reviews, whether to track a product after purchasing or look at availability before purchasing. So all of that, has an impact of how customers are taking away experiences from every interaction. And while a lot of changes have happened in the recent past, good quality content, rich content is another factor that customers are looking for. If I'm buying a product online or looking at something that I wish I purchase soon, I need a lot of information, good quality information, whether it could be a product demo, or it could be information that can help me to help myself make that purchase easier, right? So that I don't have to walk into a store. All those factors make a lot of difference in the way that consumers interact and want to go ahead with the purchase. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for those inputs, Sriram. I'll come to Mr. Shrikanta now. So with customers going digital in a big way, it is critical for CIOs to boost conversions, improve ROI, and build relationships with them. What do you feel are the key success factors for effective customer engagement?
Great. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving this opportunity to part of this discussion with a very interesting topic today. I think all of us are discussing off and on. I think post pandemic, there is a lot of a change in customer way they look at it to do the transactions and how we have to improve the customer experience today. I think today the deliver the customer experience is something what customer really required, is not at what company is required, because that is more important. Yes, company may be required something way different way, but we have to see how the customer required it to do it. So today, if I can able to enable some live chat with the customer, that what sort of the things he requires it. In terms of maybe he is requiring some sort of a item. In addition to that, he may be requiring something additional or maybe some problem with existing. So if I can able to enable some sort of a live chat with him, and also like for some item, maybe like a washing machine or something, like there is just some sort of a problem in is finding during the installations or the operations. Somewhere I can able to enable him the co-browsing facility to him. So here he can able to show what sort of a thing he is doing right or wrong, and I can able to help him to resolve that issue rather waiting for the customer support engineer to come down and do that part. And other thing is that the video chat solutions today, I think it is very important that what sort of the video things we can able to enable them, like completely solutions of that product in a video form, I can able to give it to him. That is the one part of it. And second thing is the how can able to leverage the AI things by using chatbot. Today, the chatbot is going to enable the customers to be in the systems for 24/7. So he can able to take the basic informations. He can able to attend that sort of a basic issue. So need not to be dependent on the somebody customer support guy to be available. So One could be of course this doing that sort of a chatbot enabled and make it available for the customers to get the almost all information, unless until it is something very detailing which can get connected to the help desk or maybe some sort of a escalate to the some support engineer. And the fourth point, which I strongly believe, that you have to be very sensitive to the social feedback what you are getting into the thing. Because today you can't ignore the customer thing because that spreads so fast. So you have to be very sensitive to the customer's feedback, what is floating into the social thing. And more importantly, now today, you need to give a portal like where the customer can place an order rather calling somebody and making some sort of a noting of that sort of thing. You need to give it some sort of self portal where he can able to do product browsing, then do the product review, do the placing the order, cancellation the order, tracking the sort of the delivery part of it. And of course, you can also give it him some sort of a comparison of that product with the features, with along with the what sort of the price are available in other things. At least that sort of things you can give it. So customers will feel very sort of saying that this complete information is available. So that is a confidence gets built up. And I think the customer feedback has to be attended without in fact 24/7 basis. You need to wait for like 3 days, 4 days, you have to revert it. So I think the customer feedback has to be on a priority basis and it should be get tracked. It's not like something sending a mail and then you are waiting for sort of thing come. So there is some sort of instant part of it. I'm sure there's many ways of engaging with the customers to improve the things. And today customers are very demanding. I think Deepak mentioned and Sira mentioned that it is more important to retain the customer rather just waiting for the new customers to come. So you have to make various ways. I think that the digital platform giving a lot of opportunity to create this type of a facility for the customers to retain them. And of course, it's going to help us to create new customers as you move on the journey.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Sukanta, for that very comprehensive answer. Coming back again to Vishal. Vishal, what do you suggest could be some, key areas that could, actually help CIOs build effective customer engagement?
See, before we start trying multiple customer problems, we have to solve enterprise problems. Many companies, they do not have many basic foundational core systems. And those foundational systems are not even connected, talking to each other. So forget about building the customer single view and single view of data and all that. But in many companies, they do not even have the single view of enterprise. So I think the foundational aspect is, so we can't say that, okay, let me first solve the foundational aspect of enterprise and then I will solve the customer issues. So we have to have, a balance in both the areas and drive that change. And that's where the biggest challenge lies, because it's not about money and technology and systems. It's about the overall change that an enterprise can or a company can take. And if company is just sitting and thinking that one day they wake up and they can match the delivery experience or the mobile app experience of Myntra, for an example, which is building their mobile app and have the mobile app in the country for more than 8 years. If there are, because the customer is expecting that kind of an experience in terms of product discovery, search, multiple things that offers are shown on the cart page, product detail page has to be this way. Recommendations are coming below, whether it's a product list page or a product detail page. So the customer is already accustomed to those kind of things. So companies need to decide, number one, that what is it, how much they can chew, what is it that they can do in terms of what kind of capabilities exist. Because it's not about hire a vendor and then start getting things done through the vendor, because in any large transformation project, 40% of bandwidth is needed, in my experience, on the internal side. And companies tend to have internal side bandwidth just 5% and 95% in the vendor side. That doesn't work. Okay. You need to have a thought through plan, and then do it right, one time, piece by piece, on the legacy transformation and on the customer side, and make it better, and then start from there, build on top of it. Do not chew too much, because it will burn you out, it will burn your team out, there'll be conflicts. It's difficult. So I hope I answered your question. It's
Sure.
Not a very easy, it's a very difficult question, but see, every company need to understand the context within them, because see, ultimately it's the user journey.
Sure.
We are trying to solve. So somebody who is coming and in Deepak's case, I am a customer. Why should I think of Asian Paints? Because it advertised quite a lot. Is it available across the street? Why should I go? There are many aspects to it. So the customer journey, if it is not thought through end to end, right from the product, somebody when they are thinking of a product,
Sure.
and when they are getting it executed, okay. If it's a thought through product, so if it's an impulse product, then also it's all the more difficult and important to understand the customer journey. Somebody who's not even looking at buying a dress, but because we are in the spring season and there are very nice prints and very nice stuff available, shoppers are just browsing from one platform to the another. So if your product discovery is very good, and if your product is very relevant to that time, it will click, and that's where the transaction happens.
Sure.
So I hope I answered your question, but
absolutely. No, absolutely, Vishal. Thank you so much. And like you rightly said, it's a fine balancing act for an enterprise, transforming within and transforming outside as well for the customer. So great. Raj, your take on this?
So see, the key success factors for an effective customer engagement, I think one should take a step back and ask ourselves that, is your engagement omnichannel, that is covering, let's say, the socials, the web, and the messenger, right? Is your engagement actually two-way, right? It shouldn't be that you are just communicating, you're not getting any feedbacks, right? Are you able to measure and, more importantly, defend your ROI calculations on the spends versus what has been gained, right? Is the customer interaction getting captured and leveraged to fine-tune your customer engagement campaigns or touch points, right? Is the customer able to get all the information that he or she seeks, right? On a self-serve basis, right? And this is during the purchase, before the purchase, and after the purchase, right? And are you able to really create new cohorts to test the efficacy of a campaign on a pilot scale before easily launching it? And if the answers to these are a resounding yes on each, then I think you are on the right track as far as customer engagement is concerned. Now, that being said, as CIOs, we have to start playing on the front foot, be on the business rather than in the business in order to be relevant in this particular journey. And I echo, I think, what Vishal had said previously, that, as CIOs, you need to take a step back, assess the current systems and tools that are in place, right? From a future forward point of view, or a future point of view, so that we provide a well integrated systems experience to our internal customers, right? Be they from the various channels, marketing, etc. First, in order to enable them to provide a similar experience or a delightful experience to the actual consumer of your product or service. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, Raj. So we've spoken about the trends, the benefits. Let's talk a bit about the challenges that CIOs encounter. Vishal, digital provides the opportunity for brands to reach much larger markets and customer segments. But what are the challenges that enterprises face in scaling these experiences?
See, the biggest challenge is basically in the minds of CIOs itself. So sorry to say that, but I just want to build what Raj mentioned. See, as a technology function leader, we are not CTOs and all that. I think we are also chief transformation officers in a way, because technology is an integral part of what we are doing and what we are fighting with. Because in marketplace, we have a lot of disruptors today, and they are digital born, and they are mobile first, cloud only, mostly. Okay, and they are trying to, the D2C kind of brands, born D2C, they're trying to move to the other side of spectrum, which is in the brick and mortar. So the challenge, number one challenge is CIOs need to do a very good job in terms of getting the context right, building that understanding, and then coaching their colleagues, whether it's a CFO or board members or multiple other colleagues, so head of supply chain. This is how, if we need to do a delivery same day of an order, forget about 30 minutes, what it takes to get that done. Okay, so that education bit, I do not think many CIOs, CTOs do very well, because it's primarily seen as, okay, I already have too much on my plate. Why should I do somebody else's work? So that is not going to work. So that's the biggest challenge, and that's where companies go down, the siloed approach. Okay, some people call it siloed approach. So that's the biggest challenge. That's number one, because see, if you do not communicate it very well and create that thing, how will you then create a business case to solve a particular problem? Okay, I can go on and on, but this is one big thing, because if you want to have a stock accuracy, for an example, in your warehouse, but you do not want to invest time and build the full picture that you need to have your stock in and out done using the RFID technology, for an example. Okay, how do you leverage that technology and build that entire ecosystem? This is how the sketchy architecture looks like, and this is how the interfaces with your SAP or a Oracle ERP, whichever ERP you are using. So you have to build that picture first. So that's one failure that CXOs, which is existing at the CXO level. The second biggest challenge is a lot of people, if you ask any company how important is, especially board or any leadership, how important it is to have a technology function, they will say very, very important. Nobody will say it's not important. And if you ask them, okay, how much you are investing and where are you investing, they'll say we are investing everywhere. Very generic statement. Are you the right place which can attract right tech talent? And most of the people will say, no, we are not the talent magnet to attract the right talent. So I think it's more, the challenge lies in the operating model, how you are thinking of creating that culture, how you are thinking of creating that processes which are enabling CTOs to move fast.
Sure.
So if I need to buy some cloud-based emailing services, for an example, this is just as simple as taking a subscription of Netflix. You just need to give a credit card detail and take the subscription of a tool online. You don't have to go to procurement and do a multi-vendor quote and things like that. So there are many such process changes that companies, they have to undertake to get the equation right. So challenges are more internal.
Sure.
Because technology exists for everybody.
Right.
Same technology is available for marketplace guys or a disruptor, and same technology is available for a CTO or a CIO. But where is the difference? Difference is the approach, the operating model, and how you do this. Sorry for the long answer, but these are my views.
No, definitely very valid points there, Vishal. Raj, with rising customer expectations, good service is no longer good enough. Customers want unique, special, and innovative. So delivering all these would be a big challenge. What are your thoughts here?
See, it's a question of the customer is spoiled for choice today, right? And yeah, everybody says there's a rising customer expectation. And we as customers ourselves, right? When you wear the other hat as a customers, have expectations. And one of the things that is there is fickle brand loyalty. It doesn't take much to switch out, right? And the reason for switching out could be multiple, One is, of course, the product performance, which I would believe is a hygiene, but more importantly, the communication strategy that the brand plays in the customer's mind is of equal importance in order to ensure that the customer is satisfied. Okay. A lot of time one realizes that while everybody talks omnichannel experience and all, even within the organization, there are multiple departments who believe that the customer is their own and nobody else's. Yeah. For example, let's say the offline sales versus let's say the e-commerce team and the marketing team today, might have a different view of the customer, like, blind men and the customer, right? And it's also important over here as CIOs, CTOs within the organization to be the binding force, okay, across all the departments that want to own the customers. And the CIOs are rightly placed for it, because among this equation, they are the only entity who really doesn't claim that I own the customer, right? So customer experience hence plays a very important role in order to ensure that customers who are spoiled for choice, okay, don't switch over. Yeah, thank you.
Sriram, talking about challenges, one of the biggest challenges, in my opinion, will be trying to meet all of these customer demands within industrial age organization structures that were never designed to deal with customer experience, let alone the customer experience of the 21st century. According to you, what are the challenges that enterprises would face in scaling their CX? And does technology has the answer for this?
Yeah, so I would like to take you on all the discussions that happened so far, right? So yes, from what Vishal said, an enterprise has to first be ready to offer an experience that the customer demands or expects from their interactions. Only then they can engage the right partner to deliver that experience to their consumers. And consumers today, they would like to interact with an enterprise in the channel of their choice. I think several people in this panel talked about omnichannel. While omnichannel as a buzzword has been there for many years, a true omnichannel implementation is very rare to see, right? If I'm a customer today, I'm browsing a website. Yes, there's a small chat pop-up that comes and says, do you like to help us? Would you like us to help you in choosing a product or a service? But once I get into that interaction, the expectation that I have is that it should be much better than what I'm browsing on the website right now. Somebody should be able to really help me out. So a chatbot is a good option, but if it doesn't solve the purpose of solving the customer's question, then it actually decreases the quality of experience than what it was before. And more importantly, when I'm now trying to make a call or I'm having a video call or sending a WhatsApp message, I want enterprises to know, the brands that I'm interacting with to know what I have done in the past, what are my purchase decisions that I've taken in the past, what's my inquiry about, and then answer me or cater to my needs, connecting all these dots. Because I don't want to repeat everything that I just said in one channel and I'm communicating another channel to another person. I don't want to do that. So that's definitely a very important factor. I mean, enterprises being ready and then have connect all the dots right from lead to order to cash. Everything has to be connected. Somebody was talking about how easy it is to purchase something online. Is it a one-time purchase and customers forget about it, or is it like a subscription purchase? Which means the systems that we need to implement are very different from a one-time buy and forget kind of a purchase. The second thing is the customers are consuming all these content in different form factors, different variety of media, right? I'm browsing online using a browser, or I may be using an app. I may be looking at some signboards. Is the communication from the brands consistent? am I experiencing a consistent, journey when I'm trying to look for a purchase of a product, or while I'm purchasing a product, or getting in support from that particular brand for the product. That's the second thing that is a technical challenge that enterprises have to overcome. The third is a lot of customers, I mean enterprises who buy from enterprises, they want to start small, they want to validate, they want to test, but they want to scale, they want to cater to peaks and troughs of the season, right? Meet the demands. Our brands and enterprises ready to meet that variability of scaling, that's required for an end consumer or an end customer. When I scale, the performance is expected to remain the same, not drop, right? The fourth thing I would say is compliances. I think that's a very important factor, especially when it comes to India. Voice, conferencing, video. Are we providing a compliant solution? Because you don't want to get into a legal issue later on, right? So you want to have a proper solution that meets the business expectation, also the laws of the land. The fifth thing I would say is security and privacy. As more and more consumers go online, it's very important that they trust that the brand, while they have access to the data, is protecting that data, not giving the data to somebody else. My personal information is kept secure, and there is no issue from a privacy front. These are the 5 things I would say that are key challenges. Some are technical, some are non-technical, but these are the 5 things that I see. Yes.
Sure. Thanks, Sriram. I'll come back to Deepak now. Deepak, customer touchpoints for purchases with the brands have increased significantly. How can enterprise technology leaders create omni-channel shopping experiences to cater to customer expectations? I know you touched upon this aspect of omni-channel in your previous answer, but how can actually CIOs build an omni-channel experience for their customers?
It's a very valid question, because I have been mentoring an internal business which is into the space of home decor. So a lot of you would probably not know, we have moved from just being a paints and services company to being a home decor and services company. And this is all about offering to customers a completely end-to-end designed and executed home, in which we align with interior designers, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and getting it all together. And since a lot of technology goes in getting this all together, I'm personally involved in this business. And it's all about, if you look at this customer type, it is, and most organizations would have similar customers. The customer doesn't take an instant decision to buy, it is a progressive decision. And at every point, you need to keep nudging him to the next step towards making a decision. So if you have to have a step-by-step approach towards delivering this experience, I would say right at the top, you need to really have your strategy in place, and then you need to craft your experience strategy which aligns with that corporate strategy. And when you're crafting an experience strategy, your CMO, the sales officer, the CIOs all need to get together. They need to work like the Batman, Superman, and the superpowers all coming together to create that experience for the customer. You need to be best of friends. You need to have coffees together. You need to have drinks together if this has to work, and really work well. So once you have laid out an experience strategy, which could be in terms of how do you nudge the customer from an inspiration phase to evaluation, try, test, decide, and deliver. You then craft the customer journeys, and every point in the customer journey, try to understand what are the customer objectives you want to achieve. What is it that you want to really deliver at each of the touch point as an experience? What is it that you want to gain from the customer? What do you want to give to the customer, and to the next subsequent touch point, which the customer was most likely going to approach? And then you start crafting your experiences. The experiences again could be physical, digital, or human experiences, right? The physical experience is largely how the physicality of it, and the digital is largely using digital. Human is the human. So largely experiences are a combination of some of these elements coming together. And then is when your technology would come in place, and that's pretty critical, because most companies are now becoming digital or becoming technology companies, because every customer engagement operation is getting driven by technology. Every click, every interaction is getting digitized, and that is throwing huge insight on what you should be doing next to cater to an answer requirement of a customer. So if you have all these pieces together, I think you have a great setup to deliver an experience which takes customers progressively towards making decisions and creating a positive bias towards your products and services. And this framework gives you that entire seamlessness, which I was talking about, personalization and contextualization and doing it at scale. I think that's how this could get articulated. And yeah, you need to have the proper matrices in terms of what is the what are your conversion rates, what are your NPSs. So you need to have matrices throughout this buying experience, so that you constantly get that feedback, which gets fed to the internal organization, as Raj, Vishal were talking about. How is that organization completely aligned towards supporting the experience objectives? And if all this you put together, I think you have a great framework to deliver what I would call really magical experiences.
Sure. Sure, Deepak. Mr. Sukanta, your thoughts on creating a omni-channel experience? How would you go about doing it for your enterprise?
No, I think Deepak has and Vishal, they have covered a good amount of the things. I think more importantly, I think the mindset, I think in the organizations need to be get aligned. And second thing that the customer support team, your marketing team, they also need to be aligned in terms of how you can able to improve the customer experience in a better way. And also work as a team. It's not that they are the marketing guy need to be only work on these things. I think everybody in the organizations has to put their extended hands to make it a seamless experience for customers. And also more importantly that there is a many technology are available today. I think it is more importantly that what is the most effective way of making the customer experience easy and smooth to do it. I think that's where I think you have to do it. And I think most important part is the privacy and the security of the data have to be very well maintained. Because if somewhere I think that get late, I think customer lose the confidence, and that's where I think you lose the your value in the system. So I think these are some additional point. I think Deepak and Vishal, they have covered a lot on this point.
Sure, Mr. Sukanta. Sriram, what would you recommend to enterprise technology leaders in the retail vertical who are looking to offer an omni-channel experience to their customers?
So there is a lot of information overload, I would call it, right? And as a consumer, we get to see, hear, experience a lot of product information, and many a time it kind of doesn't get digested in the way that it's supposed to get digested. So the first thing is, how do I make sure that as an enterprise, when I'm dealing with the customer, I'm getting that customer's attention span, right? Maybe a few seconds. If I'm browsing, somebody was talking about thumb stop or something, right? So if I'm only having that many number of seconds, is it possible as an enterprise to capture that consumer's attention to where I believe that the consumer is likely to go and go ahead with that? The second is we are talking about digital experience, and omnichannel is certainly one of them. I touched upon that in my previous reply as well. Across different channels, on an average, a consumer uses about 6 channels is what the study says, and it's not hard to accept it. They may not be using all 6 channels at the same time while interacting with an enterprise, but the choice is theirs. So making those channels available for a consumer to interact and providing a consistent experience is the second important factor for any enterprise to succeed. The third, I would say, is the similarity between an online and an offline. Where I walk into a store, there's hardly a difference from a consumer's mind, right? So today, for example, when we implemented a solution for a large retail company in India, the experience that their consumers get is very similar to what they would get when they walk in, but they get it right from their the comfort of their homes. They can start a video call, interact with the sales reps who are experts in a particular product. Let's say I'm buying a refrigerator. There's an in-store camera that helps me to look into the refrigerator. The sales rep can take the camera around to show the dimensions of it. And what more, if I have to include somebody in the conversation, let's say my friend, I can do that. They enable us to do that. Maybe if I want to schedule an appointment 3 days from now at a particular time, the solution should allow that to happen, and then have systems in place to alert the consumer, make sure that they join the call. There's a whole connected experience in this journey that would allow a better customer experience, which results obviously in a higher closure, higher conversions. But more importantly, I think we talked about brand loyalty before. If I'm able to interact and transact with an enterprise in a much more easier, comfortable fashion, I stick to that brand for a longer time, right? Unless something takes away that particular experience. So those are the things that I believe enterprises can do to improve the customer experience and succeed. Over to you, Yash.
Sure. Thanks, Sriram. I'll come back to Deepak again. Deepak, you spoke about personalization as well. How do you see the role of technology in delivering personalized experiences to customers, and what is the challenge you see in them?
I think a lot of experiences today will not get delivered if you don't have a strong technology layer powering it. And today, if you see the trend, it is so data driven. If you look at the new age companies, if you look at Netflix, Amazon, for them, algorithms is their business model. Recommendation is their business problem, and all are fueling from the data they collect, which consumers are sharing. And I think all businesses, even the brick and mortar businesses, are also getting onto that path. At least from my experiences, while we have been putting in a lot of systems to manage consumer engagement, what I really felt at one stage is how do you unify all of that and have a single data model? And that's where we invested in a customer data platform, which logs every click of our interaction with the customer, right from the time a customer is casually browsing a website to the time he shares a few details about himself, to the time then we really start understanding him a little more better in terms of, okay, he's visited florals, he's more on the wallpaper category. Can his next interaction have more discussions related to that? And then can you nudge him to go to the nearest store which probably stocks the wallpaper which he's interested in? This is
in the interest of time, let me move forward. Sriram, I'll come to you. Business landscape is becoming competitive now. Enterprises have come a long way, and today they are more focused on evolving their customer strategy, right? They're leveraging messaging, chat, AR, VR, and other technologies to provide a superior purchasing experience, making online experience as personalized as offline experience. Now, what can enterprises do in order to succeed in this environment of offering hyper personalized choices?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. So one is providing experiences across different channels that we are consuming today. And then there are new channels that are coming up, augmented reality channels that we see. Somebody talked about that in the early part of this discussion. So that's one part where companies have to start adopting newer technologies to deliver the customer experience that they're looking for. The second aspect is data. To provide a hyper-personalized experience to consumers, enterprises must have a lot of data which are relatable to that particular context of that interaction that consumers have. Because when I interact today with a brand, I might be interacting for a purchase. 2 days from now, I could be interacting for a service request. And that service request need not always be for the product I purchased 2 days ago, but be for a product that I purchased 1 year ago, right? So it's very important to collect data across different dimensions to understand what a customer's requirements are. And that would enable the machinery behind the scenes to deliver a hyper-personalized experience. Because if we fail to deliver, it's okay not to deliver a hyper-personalized experience, but it's not acceptable to deliver an incorrect hyper-personalized experience, right? So it's very critical from that aspect. The second is, as I was saying, it's from a privacy perspective. While data is available in abundance today, there's a lot of footprint that we leave in the digital ecosystem. But it's important for enterprises to ensure that the data is well protected. One data breach could mean that you could lose customers, and gaining that trust back is next to impossible, right? Unless there's a lot of time that you have to go through to make sure that the brand loyalty comes back based on that trust factor. So I would say 2-3 points like this would be the key factors. Technology is ever evolving as we know it. What was relevant 4 years ago, 2 years ago, and now is ever changing. So while companies can adapt newer technologies in their customer experience platforms, it's important on the other two aspects to make sure that the experience that they deliver is consistent, reliable, and trustworthy. Thank you.
Sure. Raj, like Sriram just talked about cybersecurity. So, customers want interactions to be fast, effortless, and engaging, and the data and transactions to be secure. How can CIOs meet these twin goals of, fast, effortless, engaging, as well as secure and safe?
Absolutely. Thanks, Yash. Now, see, the conventional approach to customer experience always has focused on speed, agility, with the security aspects and privacy aspects being assumed to be good, right? Time to market was of paramount. Now, however, the impact of lack of customer data security and subsequent inevitable data leakage has tarnished the brand reputation of a lot of organizations, and also diminished the customer's willingness after a particular breach to interact with the brand significantly. So all of us have learned from bitter experience. Now today CIOs and enterprises are much more aware of the need for data protection tools and exercises to be done, be it through automatic data classification platforms which are available today to assist in this activity, data leakage prevention tool, regular red teaming or vulnerability assessment, and the likes of dark web search and retrieval operations. The arsenal that is available today with CIOs to address privacy is now at a much more mature level. Not only that, a lot of customer data platform vendors, experience vendors are also inbuilding, right, or inculcating these learnings into the tool sets that are available, right? Similar to a customer journey getting plotted when you build your CX systems, I would recommend to organizations that you also have a data security compromise and leakage scenarios mapped out. When you're building your CX systems, in order to be effective in your data privacy objectives, right? And today we have enough case studies available in public domain with respect to breaches and data leakages to build scenarios from. So one doesn't have to imagine too much in order to embark on that journey. Thanks, Yash.
Sure, Raj. So, gentlemen, we've had an amazing discussion and we are fast approaching the end of this session. So, final question to Sriram before we wrap it up. Sriram, in the end, for the benefit of the CIO community listening to this webcast, could you highlight the key challenges that CIOs will have to consider going forward with respect to CX?
Certainly, I think besides the readiness from every enterprise's own platforms, which needs to talk to each other to enable customer experience to be better. One is consistent experience across any channel they provide. They don't have to be available across a dozen channels, but even if an enterprise wants to reach to its customers or be reached by their customers in 3 or 4 channels, consistent experience is certainly one of them. The second is connected experience is very important in the digital world, because it's not like I go to the store every day, I know the person who's selling the product to me and I have a personal connect with that person. So it's important that irrespective of the channel that consumer comes in, the interactions are well connected with the enterprise, and then the enterprise knows about the customer's needs and wants. The third, which I touched about, is definitely from a data privacy security perspective. Since it's a digital ecosystem, that's paramount importance. Fourth is whenever a customer is interacting with a brand for an inquiry or a transaction or a complaint, a grievance, right? The expectations are very different. The time span that they have to spend with the brand is very different, and the channel they choose to interact is very different. When I have a problem, more often than not, I pick up the phone and I want to talk to a human. I don't want to be talking to a bot, especially if that bot is not providing me what I want. It makes me even more frustrated. So channel of choice that as a customer one would pick up depends on the nature of the context of the interaction at that point in time. So it's very important for enterprises to adapt to these demanding needs. That's
Sure.
what I say.
Sure. Thank you so much, gentlemen. That's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen. To sum up, in the last year, customer expectations have evolved, forcing a shift toward brands becoming more customer-centric, integrating the physical and digital worlds. Coming out of this, those changes and behaviors are not going away. And organizations are really going to have to think about not just the digital journey, but how the handoffs between digital and physical come together. Rather than railing against and hoping for a return to normal, Businesses should embrace this uncertainty as it allows for innovation in effective service delivery and loyalty building. With this, we come to the end of this session. I would once again like to thank all our panelists for sharing those valuable insights and our attendees for watching the session. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.